Welcome back. I'm Professor Patchell. This is a few words about symbols. Now, symbols in fiction are things that appear, and what I want you to remember is the definition for a symbol is something that represents something else. It's that simple. Anything can be a symbol, okay? So, but not everything is a symbol. So, how do we find symbols in a piece of fiction or a piece of literature? Typically, we look for something that has emphasis and repetition. Just a few words about emphasis. If something is described in detail, if something is central to the story, it could be an action, it could be an object, it could be um, a, a sentence that a character says, but typically it's an object, an action, or a word, right? Words are symbols, right? We all use symbols when we speak. Um, so emphasis means we get a detailed description of the object and it's central to the story. And it usually has something to do with the theme of the story. It always has something to do with the theme of the story, I should say. So look for something that is central to the understanding of the story. Um, Repetition. If the thing appears more than once in the story, or if it happens over and over again, that's pretty much a symbol. You're pretty certain to say that's a symbol. Uh, Now, there's the idea of yes, authors create symbols, they put them in their stories, but we're not really concerned about what the author meant by the symbol. If we go down that road, we get into problems, right? Because we don't know what the author meant. Our task is to analyze the story and to analyze symbols in the story. So if you see something that is central to a story, that appears multiple times in a story, chances are it's a symbol and it has to do with the theme. Now, some things about symbols in general. We all, as I said, we all understand symbols. We use symbols in everyday life. Every human comes with symbol interpreting software in their heads, if you want to think of it that way. And uh, we look at them, and there's certain things about them that mean things to us. A color can be symbolic, right? But we have to be careful because there are colors like red that mean blood, that mean love, that mean passion, right? So, an important thing to remember when interpreting a symbol is the context. How does the symbol appear in the story? What does it have to do with the story? That's context. Okay, so if you have a red in a story that's about love, pretty good chance that the symbol is has something to do with love. Okay, now because red can mean a lot of other things, right? If you're on a road driving and you see a stop sign, it's red. That means stop. A lot of times, red means danger. Depends on the context. When you're driving and you don't stop, that could be a dangerous situation. Okay, so we have to be careful to limit our understanding of symbols and to always be specific with them and relate them to the story at hand or the work at hand. Okay. Now, thinking about symbols, if you think, man, I don't understand these symbols, you use symbols all the time. I'm sure when you text, you use emoticons. They are very common symbols. Use the smiley face for happiness. You use the face that it looks like it's crying and laughing to show that you're laughing, right? Laughter, humor. Uh, so symbols are all around us. What I want you to understand is that you don't have to be finding some sort of secret message from the author. It comes from the story. It does come from the author's creation, right? But it ultimately it's a part of the story and it comes from the story. So you want to look at emphasis, repetition, and context. Is it central to the story? Does it appear more than once in the story? And what's the context? What's the theme of the story that you get from relating this symbol to, say, characters, to the plot, to the conflict, to the setting, all of those things uh, can play into a symbol's meaning. There are some symbols that are universal, right? We have symbols like skulls, which we know mean death, and skulls seem to be all around us these days. Uh, and we also have symbols like the sun, which can mean life, it can mean light, it can mean knowledge, right? These are symbols that have appeared in all cultures and all places. Okay, so we have a lot of leeway when we're interpreting symbols, but we also want to use the knowledge that we already have in our minds as humans in society to understand how symbols work in a piece of fiction, like a short story. Okay, so remember those three things: emphasis, repetition, and context. Think about a story uh, we read, Young Goodman Brown, okay, by Nathaniel Hawthorne. There's the symbol in that story of the staff that the devil like character carries. That symbol we can think of as it has connotations, biblical connotations. If you know the story of Moses and the Pharaoh's priests with their staffs that turn into snakes, right? And those things to Christians are associated with paganism, evil, that sort of thing. But also, uh, the idea of the snake is even symbolic. Snakes mean many things, and they go back to the story of Genesis with the serpent in the garden. They're associated usually with evil, right? If we're talking about literature and we're talking about history, um, I'm talking about mythological history, things like that. Snakes they get a bad rap, right? But if you're talking, say, biology, the snake does not have evil connotations. That's context. Okay. So, once again, emphasis, repetition, and context. And those things will lead you to understanding symbols better. The other thing that's going to help you understand symbols is your own knowledge as a person, right? You have experienced lots of things in life. You know how representation works. So remember, if anybody asks you what a symbol is something that represents something else. Anything can become a symbol. Look for that emphasis, centrality to the story, repetition, does it appear more than once? And then context, what does it have to do with the bigger story, theme, and the goings on in the story, the action of the story. If you have those, you're going to get some skill at interpreting symbols. So, next time you read a story and you see something in it that seems central to the story, seems important, that's probably a symbol. If it appears more than once, good chance it's a symbol. And then you have to relate it to the overall context of the story. What does it mean in relation to the story? Thank you.